Did you feel that shift in the air? No. Seriously. Something just changed in this country. And if you blink, you might miss it. While everyone was distracted by headlines and election noise, the government just took its hands off one of the most controversial gun control laws in American history. And that's not a prediction. That's not a theory. That's what actually just happened. As of July 1st, 2025, the Department of Justice officially let the clock run out. No appeal, no delay. They let stand a federal court decision that says, loud and clear, banning young adults from buying handguns is unconstitutional. That's right. After more than 50 years of treating 18, 19, and 20-year-olds like second-class citizens under the Gun Control Act of 1968, the federal government just dropped the fight. And now, it's August, and that ruling is kicking in, for real. In states like Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi, the floodgates are opening. Gun stores are confirming it. Online FFL dealers are shipping again. And young Americans, newly free under the Constitution that was supposed to protect them all along, are finally able to do what they should have been able to do from day one: buy a damn handgun. Let me say that again for the folks in the back. Young adults are legally buying handguns right now in the United States of America. Not in a hypothetical future. Not in some courtroom fantasy. Right now, August 2025. Do you feel that? That's what victory tastes like. But don't get too comfortable, because this isn't over. Not even close. See, while the Fifth Circuit, God bless them, ruled in favor of freedom and the DOJ folded like a cheap tent, there's another group of judges out east, Fourth Circuit. We're looking at you, who decided to do the exact opposite. Same question, same constitution, completely different outcome. They said, nope, 18 to 20-year-olds can't be trusted with a handgun. They ruled to uphold the ban. Now we've got a country split right down the middle. In one half, freedom rings. In the other, crickets, chains, bureaucracy. That's why this month matters. This is not just another update in the 2A battle. This is the moment when two versions of America are colliding. And we all know what happens when federal courts can't agree. The fight heads to the top. The Supreme Court. Have you heard of this yet? This is not a drill. This is the kind of moment people will talk about in history books, assuming those books survive the next wave of censorship. I don't know about you, but I'm done watching our rights get debated like they're privileges. If you're old enough to vote, pay taxes, sign contracts, and die in a war, you're old enough to buy a damn handgun to defend yourself on your way home from work. And don't let the media fool you. This isn't about arming kids. This is about restoring rights to legal adults that were stripped away under the guise of fear and control. They trusted you to hold an M4 in Afghanistan, but not a Glock 19 at your local gun range? Spare me. So here we are. It's August 2025. We're watching one of the biggest 2A battles in modern history unfold right now. Not months ago. Not next year. Right. Now. The other side hoped you'd miss it. That you'd scroll past. That you'd be too distracted. But guess what? We see it. And we're not sitting this one out. Now let's talk about what's really happening here. Because this isn't just a legal disagreement. This is a full-blown constitutional standoff. You've got the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, based in New Orleans, looking at the Second Amendment and saying, hey, we actually read it, and it applies to everyone, including young adults. Their ruling back in January was crystal clear. 18 to 20-year-olds are not outside the people protected by the Constitution. You can't just carve them out of the Bill of Rights because it makes you nervous. And now, thanks to the DOJ stepping back in July, that ruling stands uncontested in that circuit. In plain terms, if you're 18 to 20 and you live in Texas, Louisiana, or Mississippi, you are now free to buy a handgun from a licensed dealer, like you should have been all along. But then, we've got the Fourth Circuit out of Virginia, and they just looked at the same issue and said, nah, we think young adults are too dangerous, too immature, too irresponsible. And bam, they upheld the ban. Same country, same constitution, two completely different versions of justice. That, my friends, is what we call a circuit split. And in the world of federal law, it's a flashing red light that screams, SCOTUS, get in here. And they will. You know it. I know it. The anti-gunners know it too. That's why they're scrambling. Because once this hits the Supreme Court, there's no more hiding behind regional nuance or political convenience. They'll have to face the question head-on. Can the federal government strip constitutional rights from adults simply because they're under 21? If that question makes you uncomfortable, good. It should. Because here's the brutal truth. If they can carve out 18 to 20-year-olds from the Second Amendment, what's stopping them from saying 25 is too young, or that you need a license to speak online, or that voting should start at 30? This is not about guns. This is about power. Let's get real. This issue has never been about keeping communities safe. If that were the case, the cities with the harshest gun laws wouldn't also be the most violent. No. This has always been about controlling who gets to exercise their rights and who doesn't. They started with the youngest adults because they thought no one would notice. They assumed the media would paint every 19-year-old gun buyer as a criminal in waiting. They gambled that the courts would fall in line, like they always used to. But that's not what happened. Instead, the Fifth Circuit grew a spine. And now, the ball is rolling. The Supreme Court, still reeling from Bruin in 2022, is sitting on a docket full of Second Amendment cases, and you better believe this one's going to rise to the top. And let me tell you, when that day comes, it won't just be about 18 to 20-year-olds. It will be about whether the government still has the right to pick and choose who counts as the people. That's the question. That's the line in the sand. Because if the people doesn't mean all of us, it doesn't mean any of us. So yeah, I'm fired up. And you should be too. Because the Supreme Court doesn't just shape law, they shape culture. If we win this one, it's going to slam the door shut on a whole category of anti-gun tricks they've been running for decades. But here's the thing. This fight isn't just happening in a marble courtroom in D.C. It's happening right now, on your feed, in your town, in your statehouse. The more people know the truth, the more pressure we put on the system. The more we speak up, the harder it is for them to ignore us. We didn't come this far to be quiet. We're at that point where pretending to be neutral is no longer an option. Because when one side is actively trying to define who counts as the people, and the other side is just hoping someone else speaks up, silence becomes surrender. For young adults across America, this isn't about politics or party. It's about being treated like a full citizen under the law. If you're old enough to vote, to work, to drive, to pay taxes, and yes, to be drafted or to die in uniform, then there's no coherent, moral, or constitutional reason why you should be denied the right to defend your own life with the most basic, effective means available. That's not extreme. That's American. The reality is that for over 5 decades, 18 to 20-year-olds have been locked out of handgun ownership by a system that presumed guilt instead of recognizing liberty. That presumption wasn't based on individual actions or character, but on age alone, an arbitrary line drawn by bureaucrats and politicians who never had to live under the rules they wrote. Now, in just a few key states, that wall has been torn down. And in the rest of the country, the pressure is building. Every sheriff, every gun store owner, every family with a son or daughter in that age range knows the truth. This ruling isn't just a win for gun owners, it's a signal that the tide is turning. But don't mistake a signal for a finish line. We're not done. Not when the other half of the country still treats constitutional rights like government privileges. Not when the media still pushes fear over facts. Not when the political class sees every court win for the Second Amendment as a threat to their control. The fact that the DOJ stepped back in July didn't mean they gave up. It meant they're recalculating, waiting, hoping the Supreme Court bails them out or that the culture shifts back in their favor. That's why this moment, this August, matters more than people realize. Because we're still in the window where public pressure makes a difference, where conversations at the dinner table and posts online actually shape how this case, and others like it, are viewed by the people who will eventually decide. The courts don't operate in a vacuum. They feel the temperature of the country. And right now, we've got a shot to crank the heat. So what do we do with that? We act not recklessly, not blindly, but with purpose. We talk about it, loudly. We share stories. We support the groups funding these lawsuits. We call out hypocrisy. We stop pretending that being principled means being passive. This fight isn't one with hashtags. It's one with persistence, with facts, with guts, with people who aren't afraid to be labeled radical for standing up for what's right. And if you're one of those people who thinks this doesn't affect you because you're older than 21, let me say this. If they can strip away a fundamental right from one group of legal adults based on nothing but age, then the only thing protecting your rights is time. Eventually, they'll find a reason to come for you, too. We didn't get here by accident. We got here because generations of gun owners refused to lie down. They showed up, they fought, they lost some battles, won others, and kept going. That's our inheritance. Not just the guns, but the grit, the fire, the conviction that rights don't come from governments, but from God and nature, and no bureaucrat gets to edit them. So no, we're not asking permission. We're not waiting for Washington to tell us we're allowed to be free. We already are. This case heading to the Supreme Court isn't just a legal test. It's a cultural one. It's a test of whether we still believe in equal citizenship, in earned responsibility, in liberty with teeth. We've come too far, lost too much, and waited too long to be timid now. So whether you're 18 or 81, whether you carry every day or just believe in the right to choose, this is your fight too. You don't need approval to stand up for it, just courage. They told us to wait. We didn't. They told us we weren't ready. We proved we were. They told us freedom was dangerous. And we said, compared to what? Let them hear it from every state, every town, every range, and every shop. We're not waiting. We're not backing down. And we sure as hell aren't asking.